Okay, this is part 2 of what is probably going to be a series as I update and kind of follow up on this crazy case. So if you haven't watched part 1 yet, you can go on back to my videos and watch that. Do I question the escrow company first, or do I question the IVF clinics first? So first, Kayla did respond to me on TikTok, and 2 clinics seemed to have been the ones being used. Please correct me if there's any surrogates involved in this scandal and they used a different clinic, to please let me know, because I suspect the owners of these agencies, of these clinics, also are part of the big ring. So I went into the rabbit hole of the fertility centers, clinics. So WFI, which is Western Fertility Institute. Hold on, I think my computer is gonna die here. Okay. So there is 2 clinics so far that Kayla has told me about. Western, let me look at my screenshots over here. Western Fertility Institute, and these are all in California. Let's see. The Western Fertility Institute has 2 locations. But I think there's only 1 doctor, Ashim Kumar, which is kind of odd. 2 clinics. I'm used to maybe seeing 3 or 4 doctors for such a small entity, but there's only 1 doctor, Ashim Kumar. The other one is HRC Fertility, which my pessimistic Damaris, when I looked up the website, I type HRC Fertility. What I see on the screen should match what I see on the browser, or I start thinking, is this a scam? Is this a phishing link or whatever? But when you go to HRC Fertility, it says havingbabies.com. Kind of odd. Maybe just me. I don't know. But nah, I think this is the big kahuna. The HRC is owned by a company called Jinxing Fertility. At the beginning of my search, when I had Googled Yindao Investment LLC, because that also came up on my search for Max Surrogacy. Yindao, well, ChatGPT said that they primarily point towards 2 distinct entities that might be connected: Yintai Investment Group and Yingxin Investment LLC. Now, the Yingxin is spelled with a Y, and the owners of HRC is Jinxin Fertility, spelled with a J. Are they related? I think so. Yingxin Investment is located in El Monte. They're a financial services company specializing in wealth management and investment opportunities. They focus on strategic planning and personalized financial guidance, blah, blah, blah. So keep that in mind for Yindao Investment. It may be separate, but somehow ChatGPT related them. HRC, the CEO is Sheriff Hannah. I think he's been the CEO since 2018. I looked at his LinkedIn. But HRC Fertility, I mean, I know IVF industry is a lucrative business, but just this clinic alone has 14 campuses just in California. 28 doctors, 4 fellow physicians, which I don't know how different it is from the other doctors, and that seems excessive. I haven't taken the time to look at their licenses to make sure that all of them are actually legit. So that is my findings so far for the 2 clinics that were used by Mark's Surrogacy couple. Now, the escrow, which is usually a big deal. for surrogates, we want to make sure that we don't have to deal directly with the intended parents when it comes to our monthly compensations. Outside of the negotiations and contract, then that really ethically should be handled by a third party. And escrow companies, for a long time, they've been trusted. There are some really good ones. For my independent journey, we're using Seed Trust. Prior to that, it was IFLG. Great experiences. Of course, there's the other scandal about the escrow in Houston. But Mark Surrogacy used an in-house surrogacy, in-house escrow called Lay-By. So law offices of Lay APC. So Lay-By is the CEO. She is the founding attorney, licensed to practice in New York, Oregon, California, and Michigan. She has held positions at Deloitte, China as a legal consultant between 2020 and June 2021. And she's also worked for Song Law Group, which is a law group, many surrogates know them. I know they've followed my Instagram page for a long time. I see their posts. And so I reached out to them today out of curiosity, like, hey, this lady here says that she worked for you guys. Do you still have any connections with her? And I'll pin their response here. So that's her. Now, all the attorneys that are listed as working for this law firm, I didn't see any disciplinary actions. But interestingly, I think one of them, the specialty was real estate, which takes me back to one of the LLCs that were listed for the same address, the $4 million home. It's a real estate company, one of the ones that was terminated, I think Yindao. And so there's this mix. It doesn't make any sense. So that is the Lay-By escrow. As a surrogate, if you work with an agency and they tell you they have an in-house escrow, just run, really. It's not in your best interest. I don't know how they got away with this. Shockingly, they have a website for the escrow, and they have for the law firm. It makes me wonder now. Of course, surrogacy is not very regulated, and there's so many loopholes. Maybe what is needed is for my attorney to also run a background check, get more details on the intended parents, because if we're going to be working on a contract, it's not just about, oh, we've received a draft from your IPs, we're working on it, you're good to go. I think it should be more than that. These two clinics, the psych evaluations, I know many clinics will say, oh yeah, we do a psych evaluation for the IPs as well. I think it's a very good idea to have them do their own psych eval. The surrogate always has to have a psych eval, and then one together. For me, for both of my journeys, we didn't have to do it together, but neither did I have I wasn't privy to any of the background records of my intended parents. So the whole journey goes with the assumption that the agency has cleared them and they are legally able and allowed to pursue surrogacy in America. In this case, unfortunately, the agency was the intended parents, and the escrow was part of their game, and the clinic, my suspicion, it is part of the game. So they are controlling the entire aspect of the journey, and the surrogate is left thinking everything's going well, only for this to happen. And dealing with such trauma, I cannot even imagine that.